Chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you know exactly how powerful a podcast can be. Whether it's for entertainment, personal growth, commute time, or your daily, maybe weekly workout in the gym, podcasts are the medium that millions of people use to get the content that they're looking for. And the question I get most often is, how do you create your podcast? If you haven't heard about Anchor, I'll tell you because a good friend told me. First of all, it's free. We always like to lead with the good stuff. The platform has all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast, all from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Anchor then goes to work for you by distributing your podcast episodes for you so it's able to be heard on all the top platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Best of all, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's a one-stop shop to create your podcast and get your voice heard and your story told. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Representing East Oakland, man.
Welcome back. Another episode of the Hawk Vision podcast, guys. You know what it is. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, I could not be any more appreciative. I know you could be anywhere in the world, as the saying goes, but you're here to rock with us. Real quick, I know it's hoodie season. I know it's the end of the year. We're getting ready for Christmas and New Year's. You got to visit the merchandise store, guys, because we want to make sure that when the world sees us, they see visionaries. So now that that's being said, make sure you like, click, share, subscribe, all of those good things across your social media platforms. Share this with other visionaries just like yourself. All right, here we go. Now, the guest that we have today, I am excited about. We have been putting this together for quite some time. Coach Erica Tyson is someone that I have tons of respect for. I've been watching her for quite some time, and I would not dare let 2020 end without having her on, not only because of how amazing and impactful she is, but also because of her area of expertise. Erica works as a consultant and speaker in the area of self-care with an approach that has 4 main steps that we will get to shortly. She is one of the rare few people that has been commissioned to develop a series for Franklin Covey, which is synonymous with leadership and personal development. Coach Erica Tyson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that warm welcome.
Absolutely. You have earned every one of those accolades. You know I'm a fan.
Oh, likewise.
So for those of us that have been under a rock, like that don't know, how awesome you are, if you want to go over your background real quick, what got you into coaching and what keeps you moving?
All right. Well, what got me into coaching, it's funny. I recently answered a question about when did you wanted to be a coach. And I don't know if I articulated the title at that point, but I may have been around 6 years old.
Wow.
And I wanted to help people be in other people's business a little bit, I'm going to admit. But I had a deep interest in people. And then I think around college, a lot of my study was on cultures and society and anthropology. I was trying to understand me. So I started getting a lot of interest and having a lot of interest in understanding other people and realizing that each person is a wonder. I mean, every single person is an amazing combination of experiences, identity. They're just amazing. Yeah. And there's always something different and new that you're going to learn from engaging a person. And if they give you the privilege of sharing those parts of themselves, that's what I want to do all day long. So I worked a lot in nonprofit. I worked managing and working with volunteers and a lot of organizations that were very mission oriented. Yes. But I always found myself, when I had direct reports or I had a cohort of volunteers, there were lots of coaching conversations to try to bring out the best, to try to help them find the solutions to the challenges that they were facing, whether I was working with educators, administrators, or even youth. So the coaching work really began, I'd say more fully around 7 years ago or so, when I started working with Franklin Covey.
I love it. It's funny because I think that people, the industry a while ago got really saturated. Everybody wanted to be a life coach. because it was kind of like the new sexy thing to do, right? But I think that
Mm.
there's a difference between people that are drawn to this, or so to speak called to do this, versus the people that see it as a revenue stream. And I love that it was something that came naturally to you even while you were in corporate.
Definitely. There's something about the idea, or maybe it's a foundational belief, that people are bright, people are intact,
Yeah,
and often just need the right circumstances, great questions, and enough time to come to the solutions for themselves.
absolutely agree. So for those that don't know, real quick, and then we'll move on to like the specialty and the reason that we're here. For those that aren't familiar with Franklin Covey in terms of leadership, some of them may have heard the 7 habits of highly effective people. Do you have a favorite habit?
Yes, and it changes every day. So today it's habit 7, which is sharpen the saw. It's the habit of self-renewal, and it's really the gateway to all of the other habits. Just a little background, I contract with Franklin Covey, so I'm not here on behalf of Franklin Covey
Right,
necessarily, but I
absolutely.
have had the privilege of understanding there and working with that organization, as well as a number of other great leadership organizations. But 7 Habits is pretty well known, and it's a distillation of just a lot of timeless wisdom and best practices, and it's organized in an approachable, accessible way, broken down into these 7 habits or areas where if you do these practices pretty regularly, you can see greater effectiveness personally and in your work.
Nice.
Habit 7, it really just reminds you that it's essential to take care of you while you're trying to take care of everything else, and that there's many aspects of you.
Yeah.
There's the body, mind, heart, and body, mind, heart, and that sense of spirit or purpose. And you need to address all of those on a regular basis so that you can be fit for the journey. And that habit is a pretty significant one for me. And it relates in some ways to my area of focus with self-care.
You know how I can tell that you're doing the right thing that you're supposed to be doing in life is that when you speak, there is a sense of calm that comes over. Like when I talk, I'm excited. I'm bouncing all over the place, right? Because I am all things energy, right? It's probably coffee related. But when you speak, it's just like it's so calming. I don't even want to interview. Like I want to just let you talk. But I do think that right now it is the current climate that we're in with quarantine and politics and all the things that happened this year are so conducive to the seventh law, sharpening the saw, and like you said, having so many pieces to that saw to pay attention to. How do we filter out the noise? Like, what type of self awareness do we have so that we can just filter out the noise so that we can sharpen the saw?
Mm. Well, I mean, that's a great question. So I may shift a bit into some of that whole self-care
Yeah,
approach,
feel
if
free.
that works. Yeah, because what I found on the heels of, and really bolstered by a lot of studies and different great systems, because there are many great systems that exist that help people to be their best, their most productive. A lot of times you don't really have to reinvent the wheel, but what the whole self-care model that is my coaching approach incorporates is that self-awareness is foundational
Yeah.
to any choices around renewing yourself. If I were to just give you a list of different activities, journaling, exercise, do this, do that, all great. Read this book, do this habit or practice, all great. They
Yes.
are wonderful. But you're a unique person with a unique set of needs, your identity, all aspects of you call out to what it is you need to do to feel renewed. So my practice in self-care may not work for you. So that first piece of the whole self-care model is self-awareness. That's what the S stands for. And
Nice.
this can be achieved in so many different ways, and it ranges. Sometimes we learn about ourselves through interviews and conversations with those who know us best.
Yeah.
Or through silent reflection, or through floating, which is one of my favorite activities to really get in touch with those motivations and to check in with my body. Therapy, journaling, all of these different activities, but you have to pick the ones that really, really help you to get the answers. Looking at your identity, your background, your gender, your race. This is going to inform which activities, which strategies are going to resonate most and give you full renewal. And you shouldn't be shamed or pigeonholed or judged for what those particular things that you need to feel most renewed. So that's the first step for me.
So whiskey can be on the list, right? That can be.
No judgment here, Chuck. No judgment. No judgment. But you also want to be self-aware, so the amount of whiskey is going to,
I love
keeping
it.
that in mind.
I love it. I'm sorry. So you know what it's weird to me because you always hear people that do meditation or that do these different types of self-care. Prayer and meditation always come as one of the key tools that a lot of people use. And being self-aware, right? I'm one of those people that I can start off, like I can plan time to pray. I know that I will say, you know what, at 6:30 in the morning, I'm going to wake up and the first thing I'm going to do is pray or whatever the case is. And I can even get to the prayer. 32 seconds into that prayer, I'm thinking about 9 different things and have forgotten my prayer. Mm-hmm. How do we control our minds so that we can, stay focused? Like, I think I'm one of those people, I forgot in the DISC assessment where it is, but I'm one of those visionaries or one of those people that is, I'm always creating, always thinking about what's next. How do we slow down so that we can do that self-care part of the whole self system?
Oh, well, that's beautiful. 2 things that you brought up I want to touch on. The first is that question of how do I slow down? And then I do want to come back to the DISC assessment because that and other really great assessments, I think also should be part of looking at what your self-care journey needs to be.
Yeah.
But it might not be for you to do it that way, Chuck. It might not be for you to wake up at that hour and do that. That's just not your jam.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean that you broke meditation. Like you broke it. You broke the whole thing. You just messed up meditation. It doesn't mean that. I have 2 different clients who I worked with. One shines shoes. It is so therapeutic for him. It helps him sort things out, keeps his shoes looking fresh. But that's his meditative practice. He's learned that if he does that a few minutes, at least 3 or 4 days a week, he's able to solve problems, think clearer. And that sound, that movement, that's a focusing activity for him. That's something he had to come to. And this is where a lot of the coaching conversation comes. I have another client who realized she needs to spend time outdoors and go fishing. Fishing, she had no idea. We started the call and she was talking about shopping and spending on herself and recognizing she deserves it, all of which are true.
Right.
But she didn't feel any better after doing it.
Retail therapy.
That was a thought. And that's fine. We try some things and then we find out they don't work for us. And that's fine.
Right.
But when she really started to talk about and think about what it was that she needed, she arrived that she needs to go fishing. And there's so much that means for her. It ties into her identity, her background. That was something that she used to do as a child with family members. Wow. It also helps her to feel like she's doing something meaningful and significant, not something pointless and wasteful, which is not going to renew you. Because she says, I can feed myself. I can carry on something I was taught as a child. I can be one with nature. I don't need a lot of technology. All of these different things that the fishing meant for her is her quote unquote meditation. So when you ask about how do you still yourself, part of it is going to figure out what does that look like and what does that need to be for you.
I like it. I think that, as we evolve, it is imperative that we are aware of the fact that whatever does steal us changes, right? And so I think sometimes, like for myself and my wife, sometimes she's like, why are you, lining your beard? You just went to the shop 2 days ago. And I'm like, because I can't really explain it sometimes, but it's like this keeps me in the same place. I get to think while I do it. Like I can't explain it. But now that you mentioned that, that's one of the things that I like to do is just to, kind of line my beard or just to play, a little real dumb game on my phone real quick, just because it allows me to be still and think. And for myself, I am at my best when I'm able to process and think things through. But in a marriage, and I know, you can relate to this, or hopefully you can relate and or give me some pointers because you're the coach. How do you communicate that the thing that used to work doesn't work anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And not in relation to the marriage, but just, they may be used to you taking off and going fishing, but now you want to, cook up a storm and it ain't but 3 people in the house. Like that type of, what used to work now has changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to be one of the other elements of the whole self-care. The
I
L
love
is language. So it's almost as though you have it in front of you there. No, but yeah, language. It's how we speak to ourselves and others, and the story we tell ourselves along the way is what the language, or the L part of self-care, which may seem a little unusual to be a part of self-care, because people say, well, isn't it, these activities?
Right.
But speaking to ourselves, holding certain thoughts and beliefs is definitely a type of treatment to yourself. Is it a good, affirming, elevating, expanding treatment, or one that limits or reduces you? Also, how you communicate and speak up for yourself, how you declare your intent, how you own and respect what it is you're doing. If I can offer an alternative about something that you mentioned,
sure.
Chuck, you said play a little dumb game on my phone.
Yes.
I don't know if it's dumb.
Okay.
It feels good to you, right?
It's calming. Yes, absolutely.
Maybe that's a more apt description. Play a calming game on your phone.
A calming game on my phone. But it feels so, like, I feel guilty about it, right? Because sometimes I I don't know which letter I am, because there's so many forms of the DISC assessment, but high achievers put so much pressure on themselves to produce that we feel guilty when we play the game that comforts us on our phone, right? We feel guilty for not producing. And so that's why I say, and it's almost defeating self-talk, right? Where you say it's a little dumb game. But I say that because I know I could be doing something productive and putting myself last, right? In terms of feeling good. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And thank you for bringing back the point about the DISC assessment, because that's also a part of what I like to do with the whole self-care DISC assessments, and then get those folks who have a similar profile to have a conversation with each other.
Nice.
And talk about, given that these are our tendencies, these are our propensities or our preferences, what do we need to do to make sure we don't get in the way of caring for ourselves well? And then just have a real conversation with other Chucks. And and you really sit there and say, well, I feel good. I do too. I know, but why should we? And you work it out. As I told you, people are brilliant. Wow. People can figure it out, and then you come away from that with maybe a couple of some messaging that you give to yourself, sharing it, especially when we're talking about those nearest and dearest to us, communicating upfront, being really clear about what our intention is, why we're sharing this, and what the request is, and asking if there's any questions or concerns. So it is a lot of communication, but that's one of the benefits of not going it alone. Yeah. That's the benefit and also responsibility of not going it alone, is that someone does not live inside your head. So as much as I sometimes forget that, my husband does not know. He does not know what I'm thinking, despite the certainty that I have that my face is communicating word for word what's going on. He doesn't know.
Listen,
so that's where communication comes in.
That is so fun. I tell my wife all the time, I say, listen, that conversation that you had with yourself all the way home till the point that you got here, that I'm sure you thought I took part in, I wasn't there for it. So you have to catch me up and then I can, either listen or help to resolve. But I tell her, you have to let me in on the conversation that you just had, because I wasn't there for it.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It really does happen. And often when our energy is low, when we're feeling depleted, we think, I don't have time for that. And we then make a bad situation worse, which is why it is so essential that we start with that level of awareness. I know if I'm tired or if I'm frustrated about this, then I'm likely to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
And the part about it's self-awareness, but it's also an acceptance that is essential when we look at this first part. And the privilege that I have in working with clients is to create a space where they can't lose, can't be wrong.
Right.
They will not be judged. Everybody deserves a soft place to land. And to have that space to just say, I am recognizing this about myself. I am stubborn. I am this, I'm that. And to be able to say that without any fear of evaluation or judgment, because that's not the point.
Yeah.
To be able to, I'll say that again, to say that without any fear of judgment is what you need to be able to accept yourself, to say it out loud, to hear it said, hear it.
Yes.
And then to be able to address it and say, okay, here, that's me. I am that way. Everybody can't be crazy. Like they say, everybody can't be wrong. So if people are saying you a little, if many people, and they're not quote unquote haters,
right.
Sometimes people are criticizing difficult behaviors that you're saying.
Absolutely, right. Sometimes you really did do it. You
really did. And you're still okay. You're still okay.
Absolutely. I recently had Paul Bronson on the show, who is big brother to me, all things entrepreneurship and relationships. And one of the things that we talked about is the safe space that you just mentioned, right? That looks different for men and women, right? So women can create almost their safe space with their spouse, because their spouse we're there to support, protect, provide, right? And so when the wife tells the husband, or whatever the dynamic of the relationship is, the husband's job is to listen and to try to fix, or whatever the case is. So there's a inherent safety in telling the person how you feel. But for men, have you found that it's harder for men to trust that safety net in communication?
Is it harder for men to trust the safety net? It may be difficult for me to say if it's harder for men to trust the safety net. I think that it doesn't seem, at least, and this is my observation,
sure,
so I'm respectful of the outside looking in position that I have.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem like there's a real broad, extensive set of outlets and encouragement for men to just consistently, regularly, frequently be open, vulnerable, share weaknesses, and feel like that's a good idea. I don't see that. I don't even know if there's enough of it for women, or however people identify, to be honest. And I'll tell you, a big thing with this whole motivation for the whole self-care,
yes,
it's for grown-ups, Chuck, because grown-ups get a bad rep.
Oh, yeah.
Grown-ups. And this is where my heart is. So you'll often hear teachers talk about how much they love the kids and the students, and even say things like, oh, I don't have a problem with the kids. It's this bureaucracy or the. Right. For me, that's how I feel about grown-ups. I feel like the majority of your life, 18 and up, you're supposed to have it all figured out. It doesn't even make sense to put that expectation on anyone. No one ever has everything figured out, but you're expected to pull up your big girl, big boy pants, suck it up. You're a grown up. Right. Just go ahead and fix it. And none of us get that wonder and that treatment. I mean, you've got beautiful children. Yes. You know the first steps. when children walk in those first couple of steps, whenever they're new to something,
Yes.
the whole world is freaking out, celebrating. And if we're being objective, they're really not very good at it. They're wobbly, they're falling down most of the time. But that's how we treat an adult. We never do that with a child. But every time an adult is trying to grow, trying to address a bias, trying to confront a fear, taking on a new challenge, they are that same little wobbly legged.
Yes.
But nobody's surrounding them, cheering, giving wonder and encouragement for even that one little step. Right. I don't want to say nobody because that would be just tragic, but it's not. It's not enough. It's tragic. Not enough. It would say nobody cares for anybody. I don't want to exaggerate too much. But for the most part, there is a lack of just being able to have a space where you say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm doing something and I don't think I should, but I don't seem to be able to stop, or whatever it is you want to say, and to just have somebody, okay, yeah, that does sound tough, and just let people be where they are, and then help them figure out where they listen to them determine where they want to go, and then see how together you can put together some experiences so that they can get there. You're always learning. There's grades of age. There's age grades. Many societies, many communities outside of maybe what we're kind of scripted in the West talk about different stages of adulthood. You're a woman, and then you're a full woman. Then you're an elder woman. You're a young man. Then you're a man. Then you're a full man. Yes. All of these things have different responsibilities, challenges, perspectives, wisdom, and all of those stages need to be honored. You can't expect for someone to have the wisdom of a 50, 60-year-old at 30, but they're all quote unquote grown-ups. So when you ask about why is it difficult, or is it difficult, I think it may have been your question. I don't think there's enough space and grace provided for it. So that's a big motivation for me with whole self-care.
I love it. There's so many pivots I could take off of that. One being that the stages of adulthood is one of the things that I try to explain to my daughters, is that I have two sets of daughters, right? And by sets, I mean ages, right? There's the daughters that are in their 20s, and then my 13-year-old and my 9-year-old. And I try to explain to my older daughters that the younger sisters have a different father because I know more. I make more, right? And it's hard to explain to someone that's on the receiving end of your growth why the growth looks different to the receiver, right?
The receiving end of your growth. That's a great statement. Yeah.
That my question was going to be how does the communication look, and not necessarily parent to child because that's all going to be individualized, but what can a receiver of the growth do to recognize, one, that there's growth in the process, and then two, to understand that it's not their job to grade the growth, it's just to acknowledge it.
Can you give me that first question again, Chuck? I didn't hear you.
Sure. I was saying, how does the person that is receiving the growth, how do we communicate that their job is just to receive it versus grading it?
Well, that really speaks to the relationship, the trust in the relationship, the self-awareness, likely for both people.
Yeah.
And so I think as each of us is a composite of all of our previous stages, the integration of those is really foundational to deep self-awareness and acceptance. So you are all of the men and young men and boys you were before this point, and you own everything along the way.
Right.
So in being able to communicate that, sometimes it may involve allowing yourself to imagine the experience at an earlier stage in your life. Imagine the impact, and then imagine what the difference looks like. So I think it's going to be accessing your imagination for one. I'm saying that one, but not first, because first will likely be to listen deeply, freely, just unhindered, unblocked, listen.
Yeah.
And fully receive. So this is also why you know, as they say, eat your Wheaties before this. Make sure that you're fit for the conversation. Get enough rest. Have a little treat. For me, it might be a little piece of chocolate that after this tough conversation, and I'm serious, I'm gonna have a little piece of chocolate or dark chocolate after I finish this conversation. I'm gonna have a treat for myself, because to really listen and receive when someone says, "You didn't do that with me,"
right?
You know?
Right.
And they're right.
Absolutely.
And you also know that that doesn't mean what it sounds like they think it means, and all of that's going on.
Yeah.
It's really to listen and just imagine and feel and lean in, and maybe set yourself aside a little bit when you listen, because remember, listening doesn't have anything to do with us. Listening is for the speaker. Listening is a gift we give others so that they feel understood.
Wow.
Not, you know, so we're just really listening and hearing and observing. And if you feel some distraction coming on, you know, just lean in a little more. Think about who is talking to you. Think about the privilege of them sharing this, because if they thought you didn't care, they wouldn't say nothing to you.
Right. Yeah, my dad used to tell me that when she stops talking, that's when it's a bad thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it exactly. So it is, I think it's that listening piece, and really kind of, you probably have to manage yourself a little bit so that you can keep yourself, you know, out of the way. Make sure you're not in the way, which also requires, like I said, like, get enough rest. I'm very serious. You know, not at the end of the night if that's when you're depleted. Not, you know, when you're hungry or any of your basic needs aren't met, but be ready for it, and really looking at your perception of what's happening here. I am giving this gift to the person who's speaking so that they will feel understood. That's what my listening is for, to validate that. It's not about your opinion on it, your take, not, well, I really wish you didn't feel that way. I'm so sorry you're hurting. We're not at that.
Right.
We're just listening. And this will also help us to gain in, you know, develop our own character, gain in self-awareness, understand how we appear to others, which is increasing our self-awareness. And oftentimes when people feel understood, heard, seen, and valued because of what you give them in that moment, they're better able to connect to who you are today.
I love it. I love it. I could just meditate to this all day long. I think I might even be able to stay focused on it too. This is awesome. How is all of this information that you have, all of this this knowledge that you have that makes it possible to help others with self-care, how does that help you functionally to run a business?
Well, it helps a great deal to do this type of work, because I'm comfortable being a hypocrite to a certain level. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can front to a certain degree, but then after a while I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and do this stuff I'm telling all these other people they should do. So it keeps me honest, to be very, very transparent. It allows me to live in the best thinking, the best of tools, the best ideas, the best practices. It allows me to live in it because I'm doing it on a day-to-day basis. I hear myself speak. I know the power of a good role model, and I know the power of a bad one. And I'm not necessarily talking externally. I've been both. And I want to be the former. So doing what it is I'm asking others to do is the only way any of this matters.
Right.
So it helps me in that way, because I apply it to myself. I'm my own test drive. So these things that I speak of are because they have impacted me, and then those clients I've worked with and others who I've interviewed or explore the topics, but it helps me because I'm doing it while I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. For aspiring coaches, is there something that you wish you would have learned before you launched your business that you have now come to terms with, that it's just part of the game, or that it's something that you have to master?
Don't be scared. See, I'm from St. Louis, and we don't say scared. We say scared.
I love.
Don't
Shout
be
out to
scared.
Nelly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
have courage, I'd say, and take action.
Yeah.
Just really take action. And I'm saying this stuff to me, but there are other people who have such strengths in this area that they're like, oh, I got that. So if this doesn't apply, but those things that are causing you to hesitate, whatever they are for you, don't. Just begin. Take small steps. What do they say? Whisper if you must, but say it.
Yes.
So just really progress, because I think I stayed in some for so long because I was just like, well, let me do this first. Let me go do that first. Well, what about that? And time is passing.
Right.
And as much as this fuels me, and the feedback, the results are, they give me hope in this life, Chuck. Like right now, you're living in 2020 with me, right? You're here in 2020?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right now, your girl needs some hope.
Yeah.
And to know that timeless, practices. And when I say timeless, I'm talking about, ancient Egypt, or Kemet, if you will.
Yes.
Know thyself. That is some of the oldest self-care guidance we have. Ancient. It's know thyself. That's why it's the foundation of this work. So I know it's tried, tested, and true from ancient times, and then from my experience with clients and my own lived experience and that of my loved ones.
Yeah.
So, it's helpful, it's necessary, it's foundational. I'm not even sure what question did you ask me?
That's so funny. You were answering it perfectly. I was just asking, what is it that you've learned since you launched your business that you wish somebody would have told you? You led off with "Don't be scared." If there's another one, feel free.
Yeah, that would be it. Don't be scared, and to take action. And personalize that message for yourself, because yours may not be fear. It could be something else, but just go ahead and start.
It's funny. I think that a lot of people, when they're launching a business, we always want to do the sexy stuff first, right? We want to do the logo. We want to do the website, if that's your thing. And we want to do the order selecting, the picking out the items, or whatever the case is, or putting the courses together. But when it comes to doing the hard part of the business, whether that be attracting clients or, putting out the content or creating the content, whatever it is, that's where we get the pushback, or the hurdles seem so insurmountable. My question to that is, what steps have you specifically taken to continue creating progress? Like, do you do lists? Do you have reminders? What helps Erica keep going?
Well, the first two things, and I promise I'm not being like a, kiss up, if that's the word. Vision, Mr. Hawk, vision.
Let's go.
Remembering where I want to be and why is it gets me up in the morning. It's very tied. Again, it's tied to this same work that I do, my identity, who I am, whose I am, as they say.
Yes.
The people who came before me, who poured all of this into me and didn't have to, every step along the way, who didn't even know. They just had the promise and expectation of me. So they were persevering or continued going. That stuff matters to me. Gloria Elaine, my mother, Edward MacArthur, my father, they didn't have to do what they did. They didn't have to love me. They didn't have to name me, which is probably where a lot of this identity came from. My middle name is Makeba. They named me after Miriam Makeba, South African freedom singer. That was put in me, on me at birth. And that pushes me. I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to waste that. So that's the motivational kind of spiritual side, if you will. And then systems. Systems keep me going. I am a good system follower. Whether I create the system or I find one that is intact, but systems are the way to get sustainable results. So I'm very systematic with what I do, because sometimes I don't feel like doing this or that, but if I've got a system in place,
Yes.
I can automate myself. I can structure myself. So yes, that's schedule, that's online tools, that's materials, templates, systems really, really help me to do it.
Yeah.
And inviting and engaging others who help me and work with me to make sure that these systems are in place are the ways that I think I can keep myself going.
That's so funny.
So that vision, that motivation, yeah.
I'm partial to the vision answer. That side of it. That's. But it's funny. My father used to tell me that whatever it is, somebody's depending on you to get it right. And yeah, and that part, even as I was younger, like, and I'm the baby of the family. I have two older sisters. He used to tell me, Chuck, listen, boy, somebody is depending on you to get this right, and they always will. Now, go do it. And he's a military man, so that was his way of telling me, this is bigger than you, right? And some people may not understand it because it's yours, but it's bigger than you. So you have to approach it like it's everybody's. And you're the person that's holding it.
Yes.
And
yes, I'm going to thank you, Chuck's father. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that to the pile, because there's that, and the bigger than you thing too. I remember. I don't remember why I started talking about the conditions of 2020 and how they're motivating me, but this has helped me to be more joyful and less angry. Because everybody is on a journey of accepting who they are and where they are.
Yeah.
Just like me. And people who are very different than me, very, very different in some fundamental ways, have been some of my most receptive clients to this whole self-care, if you can believe it.
Wow. Yeah. I can, it's this year has been a lesson in three things for me. And most people that know me probably would not guess that these are the three things. So you're getting a bit of an exclusive.
Okay.
It's been a lesson in patience. It's been a lesson in overcoming pain, but it's also been a lesson in, I guess I gotta hyphenate this, but vision and implementation, right? And so I think the first two are obvious, right? We've had so many things invade our personal space with media and social injustice and quarantining and cabin fever, and we've had all these things go on, yet there's something inside of me that I have to keep pushing, right? I went from just for the sake of the audience that's listening, I went from an idea of this podcast, even though I've done one before, but an idea of this podcast to now having, 30 different countries and half the states. And now it's bigger than me, right? Because there's people that are looking for the new episode. And so I had to keep going in order for that to happen, because now this is no longer, it never was about me. It's always been about shortening the learning curve, but now it's more so about the listeners, right? They're looking for the next episode. And so that's why I'm glad we were able to connect, because the three lessons that I've learned brought us together. You know what I mean? In terms of having this episode. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad you do this. I enjoy the podcast as well, so I was really geeked to be on it.
That's so funny. Thank you.
To listen to the other ones. You've done such a fine job, and everybody who's been on it before, I hope to, and really wanted to honor it. I think that right now we have a lot of people who aren't comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
One way or another. They may be ill, They may be questioning things about themselves. They may feel a lot of uncertainty.
Yes.
I mean, just people are not at ease in many ways. And so when you talk about people who are depending on you to get this right, that's every single person who I work with and everybody who cares about that person who I work with.
Wow.
Because we never know who needs air right now and how much that air that they need matters at this moment, especially as high as the stakes are right now.
Yeah.
So it's really motivating for me to get it right, to be in a space of welcome and acceptance, get my stuff together so that it doesn't get in the way of someone else being able to come upon a certain insight because my face is all screwed up while they're saying something. So it's seriously, I mean, like your dad said, I really, really like that. There's someone who is depending on you to get this right. And it's a privilege. I mean, like I said, I'm so geeked to be on this podcast. Anybody who's listening right now, I'm so like overcome with appreciation because, you know, people have stuff to do. So if they're, you know, choosing to listen or they're choosing to have a conversation or to share a part of themselves with me, that's sacred ground.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I think that's the part that entrepreneurs forget, right? We're so busy with running the business that we forget what an honor it is for somebody to choose you.
Yes.
Because they have their own day going, their own noise, their own radio station. What's in it for me? Like, people are busy.
Yes.
And I don't take that lightly at all. Even like, I know you're geeked, but I'm geeked to have you on because I know that you could be doing other things. You know what I mean? I know that you have a business to run. You have a household, you know, to attend to. So I'm appreciative. Which leads me to one more question. I hope this isn't overstepping. As a wife and mom, how do you balance, air quotes, because I hate the word, but how do you balance running a business, having a husband, significant other, and being mommy? Like, do you put them in order? Does one come first? Is everything fluid? How does that work for you?
My husband and my kids come before everything. So that's that part. How do I balance or just kind of, you know, how does the journey look? Because I know what you mean about balance.
Right.
One of the things that really, really helps me is to work on that. Just work on my thoughts and my perception about what's going on, who I'm talking to, how I'm seeing things. Like the mindset, I think, is one of the most, especially this year, mindset has been pivotal. For example, with, you know, stay-at-home orders.
Yes.
One of the mindsets that I adopt, and I'm loving it, by the way. So I, like you, we have adult children and younger ones at home who are 13 and 17. And I adore them. And
they can't do dishes for nothing, though. I'm sorry, real quick. I'm sorry. I had to get that out. That was weighing on me. They can't do dishes for nothing. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
I mean, there really has not been like a solid, like for real, like sunrise to sunset. There has not been a bad day. And I know that sounds really, like, really?
Yeah.
But the mindset piece is this. They are required by safety, law, or whatever to be here with me all the time. They are required to be here with me. I want them to be grateful, not regretful. I want to be a good housemate.
Wow.
I want to be someone they feel happy to see in the morning. I want to earn the place that I have, a safe, loving home with people who need to deal with my stuff each day. So I want that stuff to be sweet, to be helpful, to be beneficial, not a bother.
Wow. I could go on and on forever with you just to these conversations. We're getting close to wrapping up. To go back to the self-care system that you have, I want to make sure we touched on each one of the letters. If you don't mind, can you refresh SELF, what
Yeah,
each one is?
so the S is self-awareness. We spent a pretty good amount of time talking about that. That's foundational. That's where we enter, and that informs where we go to next. The E is energy. This is going to be where you see a lot of things people typically group under self-care. Those
Okay.
things that give you energy or deplete your energy. Now that you know who you are, you understand a bit better who you are. Now we get to explore and play with some of the tools. Is it going to be fishing or shoe shining? Or is it going to be exercise or getting more rest or forgiving someone who you said you never would? What are the things that are going, and we're going to look at all of those different options.
Yes.
And they're going to be a little clearer because you have a clearer sense of direction. You've really done the work to explore yourself. And now, okay, this is what I need to put in my life. I need this kind of routine. I need these kind of choices, these kinds of relationships, those things that either raise or lower your energy. Then next is language. So now we've got our recipe. We've got what we're going to try on for the next several weeks, months, years. We've got our current plan. What are you going to say to yourself? How are you going to communicate this to others? What story are you going to say to make sure you stay on that plan for renewal? So this is where we get into a little bit of the self-talk. This is also where you're communicating to your loved ones, because this is self-awareness, but it's not selfish awareness. This is self-care, but it's not selfish care. We live in this world with others. So our language needs to support our self-care journey. And finally, the F is for feather, which is for the phrase heart as light as a feather. And this is where I go back to those foundational pieces that I mentioned. Know thyself, coming from ancient Egypt. We know in very, very ancient Kemetan tradition, there is a story that at the end of one's life,
Yes.
we give an account. We are asked to metaphorically weigh our heart on the scale opposite a feather. And if our heart is light as a feather, we don't harbor and hold on to things. We are able to make declarations of innocence, or what many people might call like the 42 negative confessions of mind. But essentially, this for me is where you have your mission and defining your journey, defining what it's all for. Who you want to be in this world, what your vision is, what you want to be able to say at the pearly gates or whatever that stage is for you. At the end of it all, what do you want to be able to say you did? What do you want to be able to say was your impact? When you have a clear connection to that, you won't feel guilty for playing those games on your phone. You will know that it's important for who you want to be in this world, that you take care of that person who is trying to achieve all those worthy goals. And it's always just important to remember this is what we're doing it all for. It's not selfish. It's not overindulgent. It's not just some fluff. It's because you've got work to do. You've got a worthy life to live with high aims, high goals, worthy targets that you want to reach in your life. Yeah. So just reminding you of that.
This has been such a impromptu therapy session for myself and the listeners. And I know when we talked offline, you were like, I want to make sure that you get everything you need. And I'm like, relax, because it's going to be a natural conversation. I want to thank you as sincerely as possible for carving out time, because I think that, and this is why I said I wouldn't dare let 2020 end. Even when we were talking earlier on Twitter, like I knew that we had to get this done before the year was out, because I think it's the perfect bookend to the chaos that the year presented, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a reset for how we should enter 2021, is to make sure that we practice whole self-care, and that we make sure that we're aware of all of the toxicity that came towards us, and that we focus on building ourselves up so that we can continue to fight it, because the world is going to keep coming at us, right? Whether we
Yes.
Yeah, whether we have a business or a relationship or an idea, whatever it is, whatever we say we want, a test comes with it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is the perfect bookend to that. Um, what does the word belief mean to Erica Tyson?
Ooh, belief. It's funny, the first word that comes to mind, I guess I'll say it was fuel.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but I'll just be transparent.
Sure.
Fuel. Now let me walk back and see what I meant. Um,
What I meant.
yeah, I think belief is what propels you and allows you to put one foot in front of the other to accomplish whatever it is. Without that belief, no amount of effort or any other thing is going to get it done. So belief, yeah, I think it feels it's what helps you to make things happen.
I love it. I love it. How does Erica refuel? Like for me, I think it's always, at least I've, until today, until this very interview, I've been of the belief that it's extremely hard for the visionary, the creator, the person that puts it all together. It's hard for that person to refuel because we're constantly giving to everyone else, right? Or we're giving to the idea, or we're giving to the business. How do we, I won't even put you on the spot. How can we refuel?
Mm. Well, one thing when you mention we're constantly giving,
Yes.
I invite us to do that a little differently. As I said before we had this call, before we had this conversation, right leading up to it, I mentioned to you earlier, I'd had a group coaching call.
Yes.
That fueled me. You remember I said that? It
Yep.
renewed me and fueled me. We don't give, we exchange, we share, we make connection. So I don't even know if it's so much we do things differently, but do different things, but that we do things differently in a way that we come away from it fueled.
Right.
If I'm feeling like I'm constantly giving, then there's something amiss in the dynamic that I have created or allowed.
Yeah.
So introducing some reciprocity might be needed. Stepping back, it's all about having that awareness of yourself and checking in and saying, why is this exhausting? What about this is particularly challenging? So it comes back to that level of awareness. I'm really not of the mindset of I'm not into that martyr stuff.
Right.
That's for the birds. I'm not into the I'm just too nice. I don't know how to say no. I don't really support any of that thinking. I think it may speak to something else that a person, it's best to explore that for yourself. It could be avoidance. It could be you've forgotten you're worthy of this. It could be it's more fun to tinker around in other people's problems than to deal with ours. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But to have that self-awareness to say, the way that I'm doing this is draining me. What are some other ways that I can do it? And that's a question you can ask yourself, or ask someone who thinks very different than you. Maybe someone who you disagree with often. Maybe even don't like.
Yes.
Because if you want to get something different, you got to do something different. And the doing different things, they're on this list called stuff I don't want to do. And it could be another word that starts with S also. But it's
yes.
There's a whole list there. Pick one of those things and see what it is you need to do to kind of charge yourself up. But just some fundamental things. I talk with my husband. Yeah. He is my he's my resting place. He's my soft place to land.
Nice.
So that's it. I try to stop talking, which you've seen on full display here. I get silent. I float. I like to go in the sensory, kind of sensory deprivation, I guess they call it, but it doesn't really feel deprivation. But I like to go in the pod for 90 minutes and see nothing, hear nothing. So stillness, silence, quiet, reflection, walking, and then just, talking with my husband is probably my favorite of all things to do. And I also refuel by taking some of those weights off. So if there's something that's like hanging over my head. I need to doing some things that like I'm avoiding. Helps me refuel, Chuck.
Well, it's funny. I created a whole like little 10-minute talk yesterday. I think I may have told you I was cleaning out the garage and I put this shelf together. And mind you, this shelf has been in the garage for almost 4 months. And I looked at that box and was just like, that thing got too many pieces in it. I refuse to do that right now. I'm not. I refuse. And I would pull up in the garage every day and look at that box and say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But I didn't want to because there's so many pieces, right?
Right.
And Erica, I promise you, when I finally decided, you know what? This is the day that I'm going to do this. It took all of 34 minutes. And I was so mad at the box. Like, I was mad. I was legitimately, visibly mad at the box, right? Because I'm like, how the hell is this box gonna look so complicated and yet be just what I needed for the day, right? I needed to see something completed. I needed to fix something. I needed to do something that had nothing to do with the business. I needed to, feel productive. And I'm mad at this box because it presented itself as so hard. And it was just the story I told myself. Like, I was mad at I cussed the box out. I'm going to be as honest as possible, right? I cussed the box out for at least 2 minutes in my head because I'm like, if I would have done this earlier, I could have moved on and I could have completed 2 boxes. Right? But I was so mad at how the box presented itself and all it really was an opportunity for a win. And I delayed it because the win looked like work.
Hey, lesson.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it. All right. I haven't even thrown the box out yet. Like, that's how me and the Home Depot box mean something to each other now, but it's a thing. As we wrap up, what's next for Erica Tyson? Where can people look to find more about the whole self-care theology?
Oh, well, I guess we'll be presenting some links here where people can set up just a quick conversation with me. I like to listen. So there'll be a booking link there for people to set aside some time and just have kind of a free consultation, see if this is something that feels like what you need. And there's some options for it. Got an online course that's going to be going in January, which will be full of this group coaching that I just told you energized me, as well as the participants. Nice. And for those looking for some one-on-one or small group or some other custom experiences, I'm open to that too. I'm just really feeling this. I'm really feeling this need, this opportunity, and hearing from a lot of people in different sectors that we need to take better care of ourselves because, like you said, the world is going to keep coming at us. Yeah. So there'll be some, and then people are welcome to follow me or join me on Facebook, Erica Daniels Tyson, Daniels, as in Jack Daniels. I need a different reference point.
No, you
I
don't.
Need another reference
no,
point.
You do not. That is a perfect one.
And Erica Tyson 1 on Instagram, and I'll keep people updated on opportunities, both of those places. But I'm just so grateful to everyone who's at this point in the podcast and in this conversation. And Chuck, I am honored that you thought enough of me to bring me to your precious listeners. That is not something I take lightly. Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely. It has been my pleasure to have you on to share thought processes and just to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, right? In terms of the way that I know things attack other people or infiltrate other people, as well as the tools that you have to help them deal with those things. So I am equally grateful, and I know that this episode will help a lot of the visionaries that listen in. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the Hawk Vision podcast. This is where your work ethic and your vision and belief come together. Want to make sure you like, share, and subscribe across all your social media platforms. Share this with other visionaries just like you. You've been listening to the one and only Coach Erica Tyson. I'm telling you, you want to practice some whole self-care. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will
Representing East Oakland, man.